Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. I'm Get Good Guy, and 11 months ago, I covered the Perino Model 1908 low weight in the BF1 CTE, and I hated it. Then I covered it a month later, once it had been released into the full game, and I found that I actually quite liked it when I used it in its intended fashion. But then I basically never really used it all that much ever again. And this was all before the TTK 2.0 patch, which essentially reshaped gunfights for the entire game. So I thought it was about time I revisited this thing to see how it shapes up now and how it fits with my playstyle at this late stage of the game. So I'm going to be comparing the Perino with other low weight variants that also have very large ammo capacities, considering that's one of the main selling points of the Perino with 120 rounds per full reload. And realistically, there's no point comparing the Perino with something like the Burton or whatever. We know the Burton's going to smoke it for kill time, we know the Shusha is the slowest firing, highest damage LMG, etc, etc. So the four comparison weapons today are the LMG 08/18 low weight, the MG15 low weight, the Parabellum low weight, and the M1917 low weight. And right off the bat, let's put it out there that the Perino is the worst or equal worst option of the five for max damage, minimum damage, rate of fire, time to kill, muzzle velocity, and deploy time. And this is probably already where some of you are going, oh, I'm not touching that. And a few of you may be saying that you already thought it sucked and now you're convinced of it. But just stick with me here, because logic dictates that with deficiencies that obvious, the weapon has to have some serious strengths. So let's go through the stats as a whole. Well, first off, although it has the lowest max and minimum damage when comparing with the other four selected LMGs, standing at a max of 26.5 and a minimum of 20, it still equates to the same amount of bullets to kill at all ranges. That's 4 up to 12 meters and 5 beyond there. So obviously, with the slowest rate of fire, the Perino is arguably the worst option at close range, but at mid to long range, it shines. Yes, even though it has the same amount of bullets to kill and fires more slowly, it's a monster here, especially at longer ranges. Why? Recoil and spread. It has comfortably the best recoil of the 5 options, with a vertical recoil value of 0.2 and a horizontal recoil value of 0.15. So basically, it fires extremely straight, and with a tiny amount of correction, you can also keep the sights level. Then consider that the slower rate of fire, something that was initially seen as a downside, actually plays into being accurate at range, as there's time for the sights to return to center and you can easily see what you're aiming at. Plus, it has the equal lowest first shot spread multiplier, an accolade it shares with the LMG 08/18. This all means it's very easy to stay on target. Then when it comes to spread, it has the equal lowest spread increase per shot, again level with the LMG 08. So you can plug away with this thing for extended amounts of time and just feel like you're reliably hitting the target. This is because these LMGs all have the same basic spread stats, so in those terms, you aren't being punished in any way for using the Perino. It does, however, have the equal worst first shot spread multiplier, but it's by a small margin, and honestly, from my experience, it really isn't noticeable. So what does this all mean? Well, as I'm sure you picked up from the thumbnail, it's a laser beam. And I've said this before about some other LMGs, especially when bipodded, but in low weight LMG terms, the Perino is the epitome of a laser beam. And there's another measure that I put the Perino top of the pile for, reloading. This is due to what's known as a hopper, which is the box on the side of the weapon. This carries multiple strips of 20 rounds, and the beauty of it is that they can be placed in individually. Not seeing the benefit of that? Well, I think it's great because you can reload in stages. So you can chuck a few more rounds in and carry on about your business, rather than having to sit through a complete reload as you do with most LMGs, or cancelling it because there's something you have to react to and then not gaining any more rounds to utilize. So it provides more utility and time management. But let's move on, as we have to talk about that bipod. This much should be obvious, but take what I've said about the Perino's fantastic recoil and spread, and then apply that to using a bipod as well. It's ridiculous. Possibly too good. Sometimes I use an LMG that just makes me feel like the bipod is all too powerful, and the Perino low weight is one of those. It's just insane. Honestly, it just didn't matter what the range was sometimes. The enemy died, and it was easy. It pays to get used to being ready to go prone at a moment's notice, as with many LMGs, so you can laser someone down nice and quickly. However, if you can't, the Perino isn't that hard to handle even when you aren't using the bipod, as we've already covered. But one more quick bipod related topic, going prone and hip firing at close range is a dream. Just try it. Absolute precision without the need to ADS. Next up is the overheat time, and I liked what I found here as well. The Perino low weight can fire 65 consecutive rounds before it overheats. Then there's a brief pause as your guy pulls on something or other in an animation, and you can then fire the the remaining 55 rounds. With that in mind, you can spray away with suppressive fire at a distance or focus on a plane to spoil a pilot's day. And then there is also an alternate fire mode which allows you to fire, I believe, 1 round at a time, and admittedly I didn't really use it. In fact, the only time I did use it was an accident, as I hadn't realized I'd accidentally switched to it. Personally though, I just never felt the need to even try to use it on the Perino, as it's just so accurate in full auto anyway, and I wouldn't want to increase that time to kill any further. And then I have just 3 very quick points left to cover. 1. Absolutely try to aim down sight before pulling the trigger if you aren't going to specifically hip fire. LMGs are very inaccurate if you start to fire and then go into ADS, and the Perino's lower rate of fire makes this all the more punishing, as there's less probable chance of you clipping the enemy with enough rounds before they kill you. 2. I'd suggest hip firing at close range. Ideally, you don't want to get too close to anyone unnecessarily, but if you do, then just hold that trigger down from the hip while strafing. And 3. The sticky up thing on the weapon is annoying. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, it's a real pain, although I did get used to it pretty quickly. And that is the Perino Low Weight Revisited. I had a genuinely good time using it. It's an absolute range king where LMGs are concerned, and I'm sure some of you would benefit from giving it another look. That said, it's pretty weak at close range, and it certainly won't suit everyone. It needs to gel with you, how you play, and what your skill set is. So let me know what you think of the Perino Low Weight in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, I'd honestly really appreciate you hitting the like button, as it helps to spread the video, and a subscription if you're new here would be a great idea, as would turning on notifications with the bell button so you have a better chance of seeing future content. Now let's go over to the Board of Awesome for the epic people who support the channel on Patreon. That Patreon support allows me to make as many videos as I do and to spend this much time on them. Otherwise, I'd need another job. So thank you so very much to everyone on here. If you want to join them on the Board of Awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description and my pinned comment. And with that all said, I'm Get Good Guy, and I'll see you next time. Laters.